Hey there, are you ready to learn HTML? In this crash course, we will cover everything you need to know to get started building websites. So, what is HTML? Well, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and hypertext is a text that is used to reference other pieces of text, while the markup language is a series of markings that tells web servers the style and the structure of a document. HTML was created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee in the 91, but it wasn't released officially until 95 as HTML2. So why use HTML? Well, HTML is the standard markup language used to create web pages and web applications. HTML provides an unstructured way of describing the content and layout of a web page or application. In other words, it allows web users to create and structure sections, paragraphs, links, and the browser reads that HTML file and renders its content so that users can view it. Even though that HTML is now considered an official web standard, it's worth mentioning that HTML is not considered a programming language as it cannot create dynamic functionality. Remember, markup languages are used to describe the structure and content of documents. So yes, you can stop searching how to hack NASA with HTML. Alright, let's talk about the HTML element. Well, HTML elements are the building blocks of a web page. That's all you need to know, to start with. So an HTML element is composed of, we have the element name, of course, in this case it's just a paragraph tag, the open and the closing tag, and the element itself, and of course the content. Okay, HTML elements can or cannot contain attributes, which means for some HTML tag it's mandatory to have some specific attributes. And furthermore, not all those HTML tags needs a closing tag, but don't worry about it, we will see them just in a minute. Yes, for this example, I just added an attribute, which is, in this case, we have an attribute name, which is the class, and the attribute value, which is the info. Alright, big step over there, so let's create our first HTML document. Before we start, I want you to know that I'm using Visual Studio Code as a text editor, and you need to install this extension that is called Live Server because we are going to use it during the video. Alright, so I just created a folder called testing. Inside of this, I will create a HTML file. I'm just gonna call it index.html, and there you go. Okay. Now, thanks to VS Code, it offers us some some shortcuts. So in order to create our first boilerplate, we just need to type exclamation mark and then hit enter. And don't worry about it. We are going to talk about each part of this boilerplate right now. Right, the doc type. All HTML documents must start with a doc type declaration, and guess what? That is not an HTML tag, it's an information to the browser about what document type to expect. And thanks to HTML5, that declaration is simple, since in the previous version, as you can see, that had to be declared. Right, let's move on and talk about the HTML element. That is the root element of an HTML page, where lang is the attribute that stands for language, and you should always include this attribute because it helps search engines and browsers to determine the proper language to announce, in this case, English. Now, the head element contains more information about an HTML page. Here, you will have the meta tags. For example, you can use some CDNs, scripts, links, and style as well. Now, we need to talk about the meta tag itself. So, meta tags defines metadata about an HTML document, and metadata means data about data, and we're going to see three of them. First one, the charset. Charset specifies the character encoding, and where UTF-8 is the default character set for HTML5, and is the most common character encoding method used on the internet. Now, this meta tag is only if you need to support Internet Explorer 9 or 8, And now, because we are using VS Code that was developed by Microsoft, makes sense that when we use the emmet of this text editor, I mean when we hit the exclamation mark and created the boilerplate for us, they set as a default that meta tag, you know, for the Internet Explorer. Nowadays it's recommended to leave this meta tag out, and I believe that no one uses Internet Explorer anymore. Now we have to elaborate on the next meta tag. Here, name. Name attribute specifies a name for the metadata, in this case, the viewport. And what is the viewport exactly? Well, basically it's the user's visible area of a web page, and this can vary device to device. Because of that, this meta tag comes with the content attribute, which specifies the value associated with the name attribute. In this case, this one, the width and the initial case. They're both separated by a comma. All right. So the content attribute is basically saying you to the browser, hey, I want to do something with viewport, and the browser will be like, and is expecting what kind of settings you are going to give to the viewport, and that's the reason that we set the width and the initial scale. So the width, I know this can be a bit muddled, but this formula, as we can say, this device minus width refers to the screen resolution of the device. In other words, the width of the device itself. Now, the initial scale, this part sets the initial zoom level when the page is first loaded by the browser. So yeah, those are the basic meta tags. So please have in mind that the last one is essential because you will deal with responsive websites, but that's a topic for another video. Great, moving on. The title. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's, you know, the title, the document title. Now we need to talk about the body. This body elements defines the document's body, and its container for all the visible content such as headings, paragraph, images, hyperlinks, tables, lists, and so on. And we will see most of them in this video. Okay, let's get our hands dirty now. Right, we are back inside of our VS Code text editor. As you can see, we have our boilerplate right here. Remember that I told you that you need to install the live server extension. So after you do so, below here you will see this go live server click. Just click on that, it will open the browser for us. As you can see, it's empty now. Let's change this title. Alright, let's remove this tag because that's for Internet Explorer. We don't need that anymore. So we're going to pretend that we are working with worth. Alright, and we're going to I'm going to introduce you your first HTML element, headings tag, the headings tag. So we're going to use the angle brackets, so this and this and the closing tag, you know, my open and closing tag over there, and my content. But of course I need to name it, and let me introduce you your first heading tag, the H1. There you go. Now HTML offers us 6 of them, H1 till H6, 6 heading tags. I already have them there. Let me just paste it, and there you go. Okay, so what's the difference between them? Well, beyond the evident answer, they differ in importance, where H1 is the most and H6 is the less. A little secret here before we proceed is please use the headings for headings only. I mean, do not use it for make the text bigger or bold, because remember that regarding the colors, positions, size, and so on of an HTML element are CSS matters. Alright? Okay. Those were our headings, so let's just remove it. Let me introduce you another element, which is the paragraph tag. And thanks to VS Code, we can just type letter P and hit the tab button, and you can see you have your paragraph. And another shortcut is that we can create some random data, random text, sorry, actually. So lorem and the number you want to paragraph to be, the number of words you want to paragraph to have. So let's say 15. There you go. All right, it's going off the screen. Let's just hit this one. Okay, great. Now, what if I want to split this into a new line, just in this word right here? Do you think if I hit enter will help? And the answer is no, it doesn't. So in order to achieve that, we need to hit the break element, and of course this will break your paragraph tag. Great. Now I want to show you how to make your text bold, italic, highlighted, and underlined. So in order to achieve that, first of all, let me introduce you the bold with just the letter B. Bold text. There you go, bold text. Now for italic, you just need to type the letter I, italic text. Let's just hit the break right here. Now, what about the underline? Yes, letter U for underline text. Let's hit a break right here just to see. And finally, my highlighted text. You can use, sorry, it's not the H, it's gonna be the mark element. Highlighted text. And there you go. Okay, like we were just working with Word, right? Now I know that there is another way to make your italic and bold text, is with the EM right here for italic. You know, it's still the same. And finally, for the bold, we just need to type the strong element. Hold up. There you go. Okay, so what's the difference between the strong and the EM element and the B and the I? Well, they just differ in importance, semantically speaking. That's it. That's all you need to know. Okay. All right, then let's talk about comments. How to make a comment. Comments are important where we are developing some page inside of our HTML. So in order to create a comment, we just need to type this sign, then exclamation mark, and yes, VS Code is gonna close that up for us by just typing hyphen hyphen, and there you go. This is a comment, right? But what if I want to make this faster? Is there another shortcut for VS Code? Yes, it's Control and slash. Let me just type this. It's Control and the button slash. So if you type two of these, you can undo the comment and make that comment. Okay, that's great. Well, let's talk about the anchor tag. Okay, the anchor tag is just a hyperlink. When you click on that, it can lead you to another document or section within the same document. Now, in order to see that, we just need to type letter A to create the anchor tag and then hit tab, and it comes with an attribute. Remember what I told you that some HTML elements are mandatory to have certain attributes in order for them to work? Well, the anchor tag is one of them. And here you have your href, which stands for hypertext reference. And here you will have to set or put an URL. So for instance, let's go and type Google, Google Maps, but we are not going there. Just Google Maps right there. Paste. Just gonna remove that and to Google. This is a link to Google. If you click on that, of course it's gonna lead you right there. Okay. Well, this element, this anchor tag, comes with another attribute, the target attribute. Target. Okay. This attribute specifies where to open the linked document, where the default value is _self, which means please open this link within the same document. So that's the reason is leading us to the Google page right there. Okay. But what if we want to open this document in a new window, in a new tab? Well, we just need to type blank, the value of blank right here. So if I refresh again to make sure, click on that, and there you go, it opens a new tab for us. But please, a little extra point right here. I follow a few pages regarding web development and I found this. And yes, using underscore blank is a point of vulnerability, and I don't want you to go crazy, but I think, or I believe, it's always good to impart knowledge. I will leave the link of this post on the description below for you to have it in the future. Alright? Now, what about buttons? Sorry if I said that wrong. Buttons. Buttons are just clickable elements, and you just need to type the word button, and there you go, you have your button over here. It's clickable. But sometimes this comes with a type attribute. It's really important to have this type attribute for forms when you use the submit type. Don't worry about it, we will see in there next on the video. Just wait a little bit more. Alright, for now, let's just type the type of button. Okay, and there you go, this is just your button. And some cases, no, actually most of the cases, sometimes you will see that inside of a button is an anchor tag. Just to let you know that, and this can be stylized by using CSS. Alright, okay, let's remove this, and I need to talk about images now. In order to create an image element, I just need to type img, hit the tab, and as you can see, again, it comes with two mandatory attributes: source and alt. Where source specifies the path to the image, and the alt specifies an alternate text for the image, so when an image cannot be displayed, that alt attribute will come into play. So I have here in my root directory my image folder, and I will use one of them. So in the source, we will just type /, get my image, and I want the Kenny image. Kenny from South Park, yes. And there you go, you have your image. But what happens if I mess around with this source attribute? Ta-da-da! And there you go, you have your alternate text displayed for you, because that should work if for any reason your image cannot be displayed. In this case, I just mess around with the image in order to show you. Alright, but not only images, we can also display GIFs. I have one here, which is Elmo. That Elmo can see you, something like that. Alright, there you go, you have the Elmo over here. Let me just comment this image to see it a little bit up. Yep. So another thing I want you to know is that you can use two more attributes here, alternatively speaking, of course. First, the width. To control the dimensions of this image, I just gonna type 200. This 200 stands for 200 pixels, there you go, and the height 150, and there you go. I just wanted to show you that this is possible to handle dimensions of an image or a GIF by using these attributes directly. But again, it's highly recommendable that you use CSS for this to handle, in this case, the dimension of an image. Alright, finally, I want you to know that in this source attribute you can use, and you can link an external resource. For instance, let's go with the google.com, no maps, my god. And I want to type, I don't know, Rick and Morty. My god, the images. Let's copy image address right here, just paste it right here, go back, and there you go. Of course, it looks like this because I haven't removed these attributes. And yeah, you got your original image. But this is not recommendable because what if this link disappear or the resource goes away? Your website will be affected because that image resource is no longer there. Alright, so let's just hit there you go. Okay, that's it for images. But I need to talk about for one more, which is a website icon. A website icon is this little icon, to represent your website. In this case for Google is this little G, and for us it's going to be the HTML logo. But how we can do that? You just need to type link and fab icon. It stands for favorite icon, so we just need to tap the path and there you go. You have your HTML5 logo over there. Okay, here we have a rel attribute. This rel attribute specifies the relationship between the current document, in this case my HTML file, and the link document, this link. What is the relationship between this link and my document? Oh, I said to the browser, it's just an icon. Yes, it's just an icon, and there you go. That's the reason. So that means that I can remove this shortcut keyword and also this type attribute. Why? Because these tools were meant for Internet Explorer. All right, but since we are using Chrome, we don't need that anymore. All right, as you can see, we are still having our HTML logo over there. Okay, all right, let's talk about lists. I'm going to share with you guys two types of lists. First, the unordered list, which is the most used. As an alternative, the ordered list. But why ordered? Well, is to create a list of items particularly connected by some reason. Could be a list of do's and so on. So first, my unordered list UL will have 3 items. These 3 LIs, which stands for list items. Right, that's my unordered list. But my ordered list, we have the same items. Oh my god, just gonna copy, paste, h2 ordered list, sorry, and there you go. As you can see, as a default comes with the number. They're, ordered by number, but we can change that by using the type attribute, and the default is the number, but I want lowercase letters, uppercase, lowercase Roman numbers, and uppercase Roman numbers, and there you go. Those are your unordered lists. Next, I need to talk about the block and inline HTML elements. Every HTML element has a default display value, depending on what type of element is block or inline. Well, block takes full width of your screen. As an example, we have a paragraph, tag, and a div. And the inline element takes the dimension of the content. For instance, the anchor tag or the span element. And great, that's all you need to know about that. Block and inline elements. Now, a little parenthesis here. Let's talk about the must HTML element. The div. The div element is often used as a container for other HTML elements. But how to differentiate one div from another? Well, it's by using ID or classes attributes. These two attributes will get more relevance when we get to our CSS course and JS practices. For now, have in mind that you can use both of these attributes to name the HTML elements or to have reference of them. But what's the difference? Well, on one hand, the value of the ID attribute must be unique within the HTML element. And on the other hand, the class attribute, you can use them as many as you want. It's very helpful when it comes to start your page. Okay? Right, tables. Tables allow web developers to arrange data into rows and columns. So let me introduce you the table element. Alright? So to create a table, we go first for rows and then for columns. So we're going to work with, just to start with TR stands for table rows, and we're going to use 4 of them times 4. Right? For the first row, we're going to use TH, stands for table headers, times 3. God. Okay, times 3 headers. So this is gonna be title 1, title 2, and title 3. All right, those are our table headers. So for table rows, we're going to use table data, TD, again, times 3. I'm going to have my table 1, data 1, data 2, and so on. So in order for us to save us some time right here, let me just copy what I have. Let's remove this. Okay, the first one, let's remove this one, and there you go. So far we got an order arrangement of data. Now let me introduce you to the border attribute inside of your table element. So pretty self-explanatory, that attribute sets the border of the table and the cells. Moving on, the table can include the HTML element caption. You can use these elements to reference and to know what the table is about. So if I hit caption, random data, okay, there you go. This is your random data. And this caption must be inserted immediately after the table tag. After. Alright? Now, let's see how to extend our cells. For this, we need to use the col span and row span attributes. So a good way to not get confused is a reminder like, if you use col span, your cells will get wider. If you use the row span, the cell will get higher. Now let me just comment where is my data, right here, this one, and let's go with col span to get this wider, and this one col span, row span to get this higher. Let's remove this one, and there you go, wider and higher. Right, finally let me introduce you to 3 more elements: table head, table body, and table foot. So let me just remove everything, paste, and there you go. Okay, table head, table body, and table foot. Those elements can be used in conjunction with each other to specify each part of a table. Browsers can use these elements to enable scrolling of the table body independently of the header and the footer. Also, when printing a large table that spans multiple pages, these elements can enable the table header and footer to be printed at the top and bottom of each page. So this is why it's important to do that, or to use those elements. After this part, you just tasted what a semantic element is, but don't worry, we will dive into that next. So what are semantic elements? Well, semantic elements are those that clearly describe their meaning in a human and machine readable way. In other words, they describe their purpose accurately with the type of content they have. Why were semantic elements created? Well, in the past, even until now, you will find that some web pages still with the div mania, using classes and IDs attributes to name them, like so. But thanks to HTML5, they added new semantic elements. For instance, article, footer, figure, header, main, mark, nav, section, summary, and time. Now, with the previous example, this one, let's use the semantic elements, shall we? There you go. This is much easier to read and has greater accessibility. Search engines and assistive technologies are also able to better understand the context and the content of your website, leading to better user experience. Overall, semantic elements also lead to more consistent code. We could talk about every single new semantic HTML element, but I think practice will be more helpful than saying the purpose of each element. And we will do it by almost the end of this video. Alright, let's talk about iframes. So the iframe tag, which is this one, iframe, is an inline frame. An inline frame is used to embed another document within the current HTML document. For instance, let's go right here to this link, just googlemapgenerator.com. If I get this HTML code, you'll see, give me, so let's gonna, my god, it's gonna, Jesus, so slow. Okay, copy, shrink, remove this, paste, move, and there you go. We have just embedded this document within my same document. All right, now what if I want to embed a YouTube video? Well, this is simple. We have to go to the share. I have one video here already. Go with the embed, and let's just copy this tag right here. Just gonna copy, paste, because there are another resources. This is the Google and this is YouTube resource. That's why it comes with the different attributes. Okay, let me remove this so you will see the video. And there you go, we just have embedded this video for us inside of our HTML document. Right guys, we need to talk about forms. An HTML form is a section of a document which contains controls that facilitates the user to enter data that is to be sent to the server. Therefore, the main point of a form is to collect some data from the user. So, in order to create a form, we just need to type the word form. Let's just leave that action attribute there for now. And I need to talk about now about the most used form element, which is the input. The input element can be displayed in many ways depending on the type attribute. And here, let me introduce you 4 of them: text, email, password, and number. Okay, as you can see, we have 4 of them. This input will stand for name, of course, email, password, and this for age. But how do we tell the difference for the user right now? Because only I can see it's for just 4 inputs, but I don't know what is this for, or that for, you know? Well, I will tell you 2 ways. So first, let me introduce you the label tag. The label tag defines a label for many form elements, in this case for the input. So if I go to the input number 1 and say label, hit tab, you will see that comes with a 4 attribute. These 4 attributes should always be equal to the ID attribute of the input. So in this case, the name, this will go for the name, and finally this is for the name. So now I understand that the input stands for the name, so I need to type my name on it. Now I understand. That's great. Okay, now let's do the same for every single form that we have so far. So just gonna copy and paste what I have here. Copy and paste to save us some time. Okay, I got my label, input, label, input. Okay, now as you can see, it comes with the name attribute. The name attribute here is used as a reference when the data is submitted. In other words, the name attribute is used to reference elements in the JavaScript. And I know we are not going to use JavaScript in this video, but since our main goal when using forms is that we are doing something with that data, we want to control it in a certain way, so it's desirable to use the name attribute. Also, since they are, bind together, the label and the input, if I click the label, you will see that it will focus itself. You see, I click and it focuses, click and it focuses. So that's the reason the label is, linked to the input by the 4 attribute and the ID. Now, the other way is to use the placeholder inside of the input attribute. So if I click here, placeholder, and say, type your name And if I remove this label for now, the user will understand that he or she needs to type name, and so on for the next of them. So let me just copy again what I have here, remove this, and paste. Oh my god, what I forgot. Okay, there you go. I got my name, age, email, and password. Now you have all the information you need for your website. But now, how do we send that information? Well, with that submit button. Let me introduce you with the input type. Oh my god, where is it? Jesus Christ. Okay, my input type of submit with the value of submit information. With a little break over here, you know, to stand out just beneath that. Okay, that's great. That's my input. So this input type defines, of course, a button for submitting the form data to a form handler. And for this, you need to set your action attribute right here inside of the form. Here, the action attribute defines where to send the form data when a form is submitted in an HTML document. Actually, this is when, you know, a URL path. Sometimes where you're going to work with the server, Express.js, Node. For instance, let's say that this is a sign up form. So sign up. So please send this to my sign up, you know, URL, my path. This information there. Okay. Another attribute that the form has is the method. Normally, you will use post because you're sending some data from a form. Normally. Okay. By the way, the last thing you need to know is that you can switch this input type submit by button type of submit as well. Submit. It will do the same job for you. Input type submit or the button type of submit. Okay, just to let you know that. Next, I need to talk about the input radio. Radio buttons lets the users to select only one of a limited number of choices as long as all the input radios have the same name attribute. For instance, let me grab what I have right here to save us some time and paste it right here. Okay, I have my input type with the type of core of radio with the ID of red. Why the ID? Because I use a label element, so we need to do the same value for the for, you know, red and ID red to bind this label as the input tag together, to bind them. All right. The same goes with the blue value, blue to bind them together. And remember, input radius group should have the same name attribute value. In this case is colors, because it only allows us to select one of them. If I select blue, it goes with blue and so on. Okay, great. Now, checkboxes on the other hand let the user to select none or more options of a limited number of choices. Again, for instance, if I do another break here, paste what I have here, again I have my label with my for attribute should be equal to the ID of this input. And remember that we can display the input element depending of the type attribute. I got text, number, email, password, now radio, and now the type of checkbox. Okay, and again it allows us to select one, two, or none of them. Okay, finally I want to talk about the text area. Text area element defines a multi-line input field. As you can see, it comes with columns and rows attribute. The rows attribute specifies the visible number of lines in the text area, and the columns attribute specifies the visible width of a text area initially, because it can be resized by clicking here in this corner, and you can start playing around. You know, you can write something here, some junk right there, or you can use again the placeholder. There you go. Now I need to talk about the select element. The select element defines a drop-down list. So let me just break and let me scroll down a little bit. There you go. And now let me just create my label. This is gonna be for cars. Yes. It's gonna be choose a car. Now I can create my select element, and that's great. Name for cars to get access in our JavaScript, but we are not, of course, we are not going to use this JavaScript because this is an HTML course. And the ID cars to bind them together, the label and the select tag. Now, how do we, present our options? Right here, as you can see. Let me just break to give some space. Yeah. Where are my options? Well, you need to create an option tag. Okay, an option tag, defines an option that can be selected inside of a select element, of course. The value, this is gonna be Volvo. Sorry if I say this wrong, I don't know how those brands are saying, Volvo. And there you go, you have a Volvo and Volvo. And the value attribute here gets more relevance as well as the name attribute when we are going to do, forms with JavaScript. When we can manipulate the data and do something with that data. That's the reason that we need to use the value attribute here. All right, now I have 3 more options, so I'm just gonna grab what I have here and paste it right there. So remove this, and there you go. There you have your 4 options right there. By default, the first item is displayed on the on the drop down list. It's displayed by default, because if I move this at the top, you got the staff. Okay, let me just remove that, just showing you. Now, instead of doing that, you can use the selected attribute to show where you want first, no matter the order. For example, Fiat selected, and it's gonna go first. It's gonna show the user that first. Okay, now to go one step further, let me introduce the option group tag. The option group tag is used to group related options in a select element of a drop-down list. So if you have a long list of options, groups or related options are easier to handle for the user. For instance, I have my Volvo and my staff, and I grab those inside of my option group tag, OPT group. Okay, let's put it right here. Let's remove this one. Okay, then this part, and then this part as well. Okay, I got my option group here. Now this option group tag, element, tag, needs to come with an attribute, because as you can see, there is a white space over there. This should be placed for the title of this option group tag, and that's where the label attribute comes into play. So I'm just gonna call it Swedish cars for this one. Now if I refresh, there you go. The same goes for these ones. So if I just gonna grab what I have here, those are, I think, German brand cars. And there you go. Now if I use this selected attribute, you will see that it works as well inside of the option group tag. It's choosing for us the Mercedes, and there you go. So far so good with the list of options, but what if we want the user to put some custom value? Well, that when the Datalists come into place, because here we are telling the user to choose or to pick one of them. But what if the user wants to inject or put some data from its own? Well, we need to use the Datalist element. So again, break. Alright, let's create that data list element, and we're going to create first of all our label with 4 attribute, then an input. This is important because the definition of a data list is an element that specifies a list of predefined options for an input element. This input element that we are going to create with the ID of browser. My god, no. Okay, ID of browser. Okay, we are going to get rid of that type attribute because we're going to use the list attribute here, and I'm going to call it browser-list. Now we can create our data list, and here I'm going to have an ID attribute with the value of the list attribute right there to reference that, because the list attribute of the input element must refer the ID attribute of the data list element. That's the reason they are both are the same. Here, the same idea as the select element, we're going to use the options element, but they are self-closing tags. Okay, there you go. See then this correctly, right? And I can see my options. Okay, but you will be able only to see it because the input is empty. But what if the user wants to type I don't know, the doc search engine, not the browser that he chooses? You won't be able to see any option again until you empty this space, this input. There you go. Okay, again, data list elements specify a list of predefined options for an input element. Why? Because you can type your own right here. They are just options. Okay, now what's the difference between the select element and the data list? Well, think of it as a difference between a requirement, which is this, and a suggestion. So for the select element, the user is required to select one of the options you have given. For the data list element, is suggested that the user select one of the options that you have given to him or to her, but he or she can actually enter anything he or she wants in the input, right? Well guys, that's all the basics regarding forms. Well, a little extras before we end is that we can add a few tags right here inside of the head, the style. You guess it, just to style your page. So for instance, if I go with body, this is just a selector. I'm selecting the body and I want to have it a background of the dark color. There you go. Now I want to select any label that I have on my HTML document and I want them to be the text color of white. And there you go. All right. This is for the style tag that can go inside of the head tag. Now the script tag can go right here inside of the head tag, but I always choose just before the closing tag of the body. Okay, and I'm just gonna say my hello world of the JavaScript. Console log hello world. You won't be able to see it until you go to your page. Maximize that, inspect the page and go with the console and you see the hello world. Alright, that's great. Now we need to practice everything we have done so far. So let's get started by removing everything and start from scratch. Right guys, remember that I told you that we're going to practice the semantic elements, where this is the part. We're going to create something from scratch, a skeleton, simple document, okay? So to get started, let me go with my header element. So header, right? The header element is a header for a section or for a document. In this case, particular case, it's just gonna be for the document, right? H1 HTML crash course. We're gonna set an image. It's going to be screen, but with a width of 200. All right, that's great. Now I'm going to set a paragraph with a with a bold text and a break. So if you allow me to paste what I already have there you go. Get ready, we're going to practice everything we have seen and a little bit more. Now let me introduce you the figure tag. This tag specifies self-contained content like illustrations, diagrams, photos, codings, listings, and so on. So let me grab my image. I'm going to set this image, I don't know, semantic, let's call it, and with a width again of 200 pixels, and a fig caption, which is, you know, a captions for the figure element, and in this case structure we will try to follow. Okay, this is the structure that we're going to try to follow: the header, the nav, sections, outside, and the footer. Talking about the footer, let's create the footer. So the footer element is generally found at the bottom of a document, a section, or an article. Just like the header, the content is generally mere information such as author details, legal information, sitemap, links, or related information. It's also valid to include the section element within the footer. So here we have two of them. Times two. The first one is going to have the class of intro. Oh my god. Intro. Alright. And again, the section is just a thematic grouping of content. In this case, we're going to have a paragraph. It's going to say, this is my footer. By the way, I almost forgot, I want to separate the footer from the rest of the document by doing HR, horizontal rule, and there we go. All right, so going back here, and in HTML we can use symbols as well, certain codes, by using the ampersand, hash, and the code related to certain symbols or icons, like so. There you go. See, icons and symbols. All right, going outside of that section, within this other section, let's just use the class attributes and call it social. H4, please visit us in order list, but with the type of lowercase Roman numbers. And I already have here my list items, so I'm just gonna copy and paste them to save us some time. There you go. This is, you know, like a footer. Inside of this li should be an anchor tag, like a link or an icon, the Twitter icon, Discord and Reddit icon. So if we click on that, it's gonna lead us to that page, particular page of that link. Okay, but for, you know, the sake of this video, just gonna leave it as it is to give you the idea of the footer. Right, next let's talk about the nav element. So outside the header, let's go with the nav. The nav element defines a set of navigation links. Normally you will see nav, unordered list, list item, and my anchor tag. My anchor tag here will say footer. Okay, and remember here the href, remember when I told you that, the anchor tag is gonna lead you to another document or section within the same document, and in order to achieve that, we can use the ID attribute footer, but we need to set that right here. The ID is gonna be footer. In order to see what's going on, let me just create an image. Insert an image. It's gonna be just the logo to make some space between the nav and the footer. There you go. If you click the footer, it's gonna lead us to the footer. And this can be to what if we want to go back at the top without scrolling? What, with the same idea, an anchor tag with go to the header section, go back at the top, and this is not going to work out because we need to set that ID of header. Okay, click on that and we are at the header back again. So again, insert this inside of this to make the difference that this belongs to the footer. All right, then let's talk about the main tag. The main tag must be only unique in a document, and the content inside of the main element should be again unique. So the main just means to be unique, is the important, the hard part, or the core information of your web page. In this case, we're going to use inside of this main articles. The first one is going to be with the ID of the table. ID of table. We're going to create a table right there, and an article with a form. Okay, an article is an element intended to be independently distributable or reusable. An article should make sense on its own. Alright, so having said that, let's create our table. Remember, table, if you want, you can put that border. You can use table head, table row, th, let's just th again times 3, times 3, title 1, title 2, title 3. Right, there you go. Now my table body, table rows, let's just call it 2 rows because we already know how to do that. And table data times 3. My god. Table data times 3. Data 1. Data 2. And data 3. This is just going to be one data 4, let's say. And we're going to use, to get it wider, call span, and let's go with 3. There you go. Okay, this is just your table for that article. Again, in order to go to that section, let's create inside of our navigation. Okay, copy, paste twice because this is gonna be for the table and this for the form. So this is gonna be for the table and this for the form. All right. And let's go inside of this part and let's create a form. Now sign up, let's say sign up. All right, so we're going to create a simple form here. So label, let's go with name break, not break yet. So inside of this before that break, let's create an input text. Input, just type text with the ID of name, and yep, that should do it. Just no placeholder, just that. We can omit the name attribute right here because we're not going to use JavaScript, of course. All right, so because I am lazy 3 times, but I need to switch this to email, and again email. All right, let's go here with password. Let's copy, oh my god, wrong password. Copy, paste, and paste. Capital P. Got my password, email, and something there. All right. Finally, let's use checkbox, input type, checkbox, the typical, with the label. I almost forgot label for, I don't know, let's call it accept. Accept. Let's remove this. something like that. Let's see. Okay, and this is my checkbox, and finally my input type. Let's hit break. Let's go with the input type of submit and the value submit info, or just sign up, you know. This is my single form, and that's great. And I almost forgot the aside. Okay, so outside of the main tag, we're going to create an aside element, and I'm going to call it publicity. That because the aside element defines some content aside from the main content, and it's placed, you know, like a sidebar. In this case, we cannot give it, you know, position because we are only using HTML and not CSS, but you get the idea. All right, so I have an H1 right here, and H1. Let's hit another HR just to notice the difference. All right then, like it was an outside part, and then an image again to clarify what is this about, like it was publicity, you know, that sidebar. Let's call it Kenny, and we're going to inject some video. Already have it right here, so sure, remember, embed, and let's just copy and paste it right here. Let's see if it's there. There you go, that's your video embed inside of your website. Let's get rid of YouTube now, and I think it's pretty much it, but we almost forgot that. So it's called aside. So copy, paste, this is aside. All right, I think I just call it publicity. Yes, my bad. Publicity. Okay, so if I make this window bigger, this is our header. Let me inspect the page, so you will be able to see it. Let's go back again, refresh. There you go. So we have our header here because it's huge, you know. That's due to the image itself. That's my header. It's my nav. It's an image to create some space between, you know, the navigation and the rest of the document. There is my main, which is this main has it has the two articles, my table, my form, got my site, and finally my footer. All right, we just created, you know, a single element, HTML document here. Alright guys, it was really hard to me to talk about HTML without CSS, but I tried to isolate the topics regarding HTML from CSS in this video, but at least I know that you are getting a little taste of what CSS is, alright? So guys, thank you so much. If you find this video useful in any way, do not hesitate to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I will be always happy to help. This was your HTML crash course. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you on the next video.